Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Hot Topic show here on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. We're so glad that you're here. Unfortunately, we're really sad about what's happening to our friends out in Los Angeles, California. They are dealing with these horrific wildfires that are just ravaging much of Los Angeles and the surrounding area, the Palisades fire, and I'm going to talk to you guys about that. I just want to say if anybody is streaming from there, and if you are affected or close enough to give us information, we would love to have you on. Let us know in the chat, and we will reach out to you. So we're first of all, we want to say we hope that everyone is doing okay. We're sorry that you're going through this. And I've been speaking to lots of friends who are in Los Angeles. We're going to speak to one in just a moment, but let me just give you an update about what is happening here, just so you know just how horrific all of this is as we send our thoughts out. Okay. So here's the thing. We're calling it hell on earth because it is. And hell on earth is in California right now. Firefighters are battling they did all through the night against a wildfire that roared into this affluent Pacific Palisades neighborhood in Southern California. That was on Tuesday night. It destroyed homes, forcing at least 30,000 residents. There's going to be more to evacuate. Officials have warned of devastating losses to come. The fire is expected to remain uncontained all day as strong winds pick up hurricane force winds here or out in Los Angeles. It scorched almost 3,000 acres and it is continuing. That was by Tuesday night, burning with the ferocity that has astonished fire officials and people there. And then we're going to show you lots of video. So I just want to set the stage about what is going on. We're going to start with a table setter. This is from our friends over at MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe. Watch.
Breaking news at 6 a.m. on the West Coast and 9 a.m. in the East. Live pictures from Los Angeles County, where wildfires broke out due to a dangerous windstorm and dry conditions in the area. The Palisades fire rapidly expanded by thousands of acres over the course of just a few hours. As of last night, the fire burned roughly 3,000 acres of land with roughly 50,000 people ordered to evacuate. As of this morning, the LA County Fire Department reports the fires are 0% contained. Wildfires also broke out roughly 30 miles east near Pasadena. No injuries or deaths have been reported in either fires as of this morning. California Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency, and President Biden, who is in Los Angeles this morning for previously scheduled events, has been briefed on the wildfires, while FEMA has already approved aid to try and combat them. But that's the issue with these wind gusts reported potentially up to 100 miles per hour as we get into today. Joining us now,
that is our
California.
Friends over at MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski on Morning Joe, as they began their broadcast just a couple of minutes ago at the top of the hour. I just want to show you some of the horrific video. This is, before we bring in our guest here, this video is of a man, or it's actually two men and their dog. They're trapped inside of a house, their burning house, as the fire is roaring through. I'm not sure exactly if they're okay. The video doesn't tell us. But just look at just how frightening this is. Andy, roll it, please.
Hi. Just be okay. You're gonna be okay. Hi. You're gonna be okay. Oh shit. Don't worry about that, dude. Look at that. Oh shit. Scary, huh? Yeah. The plastic is gone, dude. Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, can you imagine being in your home and this is happening? Yes, casual observer, what a nightmare. Now, there is a member in our chats who are saying that I heard that they're okay. So I hope and I pray that they're okay and others as well. Let us know where you're streaming from, if you're anywhere near this, if you're seeing any of this, if you've been in situations like this. They're trying to figure out exactly how it
Don't open the
all
window.
started, but I mean,
Don't open anything. Just stay over
this
here.
would just be horrific and really frightening to experience. Let's bring in someone who's out in the Los Angeles area experiencing not quite this, but at least experiencing the fright there. And I understand Tracy Jacobs is joining us. Tracy is a Washington resident. Tracy, I understand you're packing your bag in case that you have to evacuate. What's going on? Take us.
Yeah, I'm in. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hi, Don. I am in the Beverly Hills post office area, which is not quite Beverly Hills. We're served by the LAPD and the LA Fire Department as opposed to Beverly Hills, which has been, they get the real treatment with the fire department going and cruising through there, making sure they're okay. It's scary because it's spreading so out of sequence. It's, to go from the Palisades from 20 acres to over 3,000 acres. And then it's in Pasadena and Altadena. Now there's 30 acres right near Encino in the valley. And it's all over, and the winds are so strong, which is the real problem, which is why the planes and helicopters can't get out there to water down the fires. And
Mhm.
the winds are supposed to go down by the end of the day, but just more burns until then.
Yeah, and we also have live video, Tracy, as you're speaking to show that the news folks out there are covering this, and it is just unbelievable. These structures are burning out of control. This has been happening since last night. Tracy, as you've been watching the video there and watching the news, they have any idea of how this started? And I know how it got out of control because of the winds, but do we know how this started?
They don't know. I mean, they will do an investigation once they get this all under control, but they don't know. I mean, it would be horrifying to think it was arson. It could be the wind and a spark with some vegetation, but nobody knows yet. They're so focused on getting containment. And as Mika said, they have 0% containment in the Palisades so far because, as I've said, the planes, the water bombing planes and helicopters can't get up there because the winds are so strong and dangerous.
Yeah. In response to this, again, as we're looking at live video of the folks out there covering it, in response to the Pacific Palisades fire, the authorities in neighboring Santa Monica issued an evacuation order for a northern part of the city and closed the area to the public, warning of an immediate threat to life. The city is home to about 90,000 residents. Look at all these places where the fires are. And they're showing the fire and the winds. There were hurricane force winds that were there last night. This is from our friends over at, I think it's KTLA 5 there. 90,000 residents, most of whom live south of the evacuation zone. One firefighter sustained serious head injury while battling the blaze. The authorities said cause of the fire was under investigation. That's according to the California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection. Multiple agencies were responding with strike teams, but the wind, grounded aircraft, official says, making the fire particularly difficult to fight. Fierce winds grew even stronger on Tuesday night. A gust of 99 miles per hour was recorded. That was at 10:20 p.m. in the San Gabriel Mountains, just north of Pasadena. The National Weather Service had said that the strong wind gusts were expected through noon on Wednesday. Unbelievable. We want to show some stuff, Tracy, as we look through this, and then we'll talk to you
Okay.
more about what residents are doing. But this is horses are being escorted out of the Los Angeles area, and they're having to evacuate everyone. Andy, let's show the horses that are being evacuated out of the Los Angeles area.
Hi there. How many more horses do you have?
Check that out.
We have a couple we just let loose over there. We're trying to get as many as we can out. Yeah.
Are any homes out there on fire?
Honestly, I did not pay attention. I just drove straight to the barn to get my horses out and get the rest of these guys out. We're not just gonna let them burn.
I got a bunch out with trailers and there's a bunch in there still. How many more? We don't know. I don't know. I don't know how many. How many did you let out?
We took about 4 of them in trailers, 2 in the different trailers, 3 in another one. So there should be at least maybe 12.
About 12. Are there more people out there right now?
It's a whole bar.
Look down and down to get these out. I got, let's see. So there's 4, 2, 3, what is that, 9?
So, Andy, if you could turn the sound down a little bit, let me just say, like, if you can look at this, there's fire surrounding on all sides of them as these people are evacuating. They're trying to get their animals out. They're trying to get people out. I can't imagine what the residents are dealing with now. Tracy, what is everyone what's the concern level? Are people afraid to leave their homes in the area? What is the concern level there? What are residents doing right now?
Well, I think that residents everywhere in LA should pack a bag with their medicines, some cash, their anything for the pets, and some clothes, and some basic things that just to be ready, which is what I'm doing this morning. I am not affected by it at this point, but it is spreading so wildly. I think everyone's afraid. The streets are jammed with people trying to get out. All the people I know who live in the Palisades, which is one of the nicest areas in LA, evacuated yesterday and are all staying in hotels. And it's more than likely that at least out of the three people I know in an area of the Palisades, that at least one or two of them are going to burn down because they're
Yeah.
really in the danger zone. And
Um,
these are expensive homes. And whether it's expensive or not, they've burned down apartment buildings. They've almost burned down the Palisades Village. But the scary thing is that it's also in Pasadena and Altadena, which is across the freeway and way far away from the Palisades. So all it takes is a spark and it spreads insanely fast. So I would just say for all residents who are here and who may not yet or hopefully won't be affected, just to have some stuff ready to go quickly if they tell us to evacuate.
All right. Tracy Jacobs is a resident of Los Angeles. She says she's in the Beverly Hills post office area, which is a distinction. If you live out there, you know the difference. Tracy, be safe. Thank you for joining us, okay? And
Thank you, Don.
Thank you very much. Tracy Jacobs, a resident and a friend who lives out in the area. And of course, we're concerned for her, concerned for others, especially those who are in the area and are in danger. The fire inside of someone's house, we're going to continue to discuss this because this is just unbelievable. I believe these are historic fires, especially since they don't know how it started. And it is a surprise in many ways to the folks, the residents and the folks who are fighting them. Fire inside of someone's house as they rush to escape. This came in overnight. Here it is. That is unbelievable. Also, folks who were flying into Los Angeles last night and on airplanes, can you imagine? And your home could be on fire, or your neighbor's home, or your friend's home, or your loved one's home could be on fire, and you're flying in either from business or vacation or whatever, and then you see this as you are landing where you live. Watch this. Look at that. It looks like a volcano, the inside of a volcano. And those are fires in Los Angeles. Can you imagine the horror of just not knowing? Unbelievable. Also, students at Pepperdine University, students at schools had to sit there and watch the wildfires from their classroom because they came in so fast and were a surprise, again, as I said, to the firefighters and the people who are there. These are students watching from their classroom at Pepperdine.
There it is.
Yep. Please move anywhere as promptly and calmly as possible. Okay. Okay, let's go.
There it is.
Yep. Please move anywhere as promptly and calmly as possible. Okay.
Where's Nehow? Yeah. I'm using Nehow, dude. I'm desperate. I'm gonna stand over here. You wanna stand with me?
So just so I'm clear, you're inside right now.
Yes, I'm inside.
Okay, and so the backdrop that we're seeing, that's just the glass window outside.
Yeah, so this is the window where you can see like the parking lot and then the mountain ranges.
So we're looking at, you know, some different students all hanging out. Almost everybody looks like they're in their masks and trying to pass the time in the library together. Nobody's getting sleep tonight. and this is not the final situation that anybody was anticipating.
It's not what anybody was anticipating. And here's the thing, like, people pay attention when we talk about what's happening politically in the country. Everyone pays attention. Everyone is involved. Everyone is engaged. People want to, get online and talk about things. But folks don't have that same energy when it comes to our loved ones, our fellow Americans who are suffering around the country. And our people in California are suffering right now. And we have to put the politics aside. And I'm going to talk about that in a little bit so that people can get the help that they need. Beautiful Garden 65 says, I'm in contact with family in Santa Clarita and I am praying for them. We want to hear your stories. We want to see if you can put the politics aside. Some folks cannot. And then I'm going to ask you just in a minute if you think it is appropriate for people to politicize this issue of the fires, because it is happening. It seems that everything now has become political, even if there's a fire, even if there is a natural disaster, it becomes politicized. Steve Guttenberg, I don't know if you remember the actor Steve Guttenberg, was out trying to help his neighbors and also, I think, evacuating his home. I reached out to Steve. I have not heard back from him yet. I'm not sure if he has power or is able to charge his phone. But here's actor Steve Guttenberg out trying to help. Everyone is out trying to help each other. Here it is.
Steve Guttenberg.
Steve, do you live in this area?
I live in the area. Yeah, I live right up the hill. And thank goodness everybody's back. But I have friends up there right now. And they can't evacuate because it's stuck on Palisades Drive. It's really important for people to help each other. It's really important for everybody to band together. And don't worry about your personal property. Just get out. Get your loved ones and get out. I have friends up there that can't get out right now.
Yeah. Friends up there who cannot get out. And it's important. It's because things are not that important. Lives are important as we look at these live pictures. This is what the folks of Los Angeles are waking up. The sun is coming up in Los Angeles right now. It's coming up in Los Angeles and people are waking up to a horror. It looks like what it is, that a fire just ravaged their area. I'm surprised that there's anything left in SoCal to burn at this point. It's so sad. I'm in the Bay Area and the smoke is thick all the way to the Bay Area. People are abandoning their cars on the side of the highway because they have nowhere to go. Watch this. Look at that. Imagine being in that. And guess what they're having to do, the emergency workers, in order to get through this. Imagine emergency workers are having to bulldoze their way through these cars and just push them aside because the fire trucks are not able to get through. They bring the bulldozers in, and if they can't clear the roads, what do? They take the bulldozers and they just push the cars out of the way. Unbelievable. Now, the winds are so high that they're not always able to do this. Usually what they do, they go to the ocean or they go to a nearby water source with airplanes to get water to pour on the fires. Some of the residents are saying, I've never seen this before, this many planes and how they do it. Usually it is planes with buckets, but watch the effort to get to the ocean to get water on these fires. Here it is.
These
These are the airplanes picking up the water. I've never seen that shit in my life. Those are the planes picking up the water. And then they just take off. That's amazing.
Planes pick up the water, and then what do? They go and they drop the water on the fires. But right now, I have to be honest with you, nothing is helping. There are not enough planes and not enough water to go around, even by the ocean, for these fires. These are our fellow Americans who are in California and who are really dealing with horrific situations. This is when I talk about this being politicized. I want to put this up because this is a resident in California in this wealthy area who has asked for help. Does anyone have access to private firefighters to protect our home in Pacific Palisades? Need to act fast here. All neighbors' houses burning. Will pay any amount. Thank you. Okay, so they put that up, but they're showing here. Can you back that up, Andy? I want to show what they're showing here. The original one. This was back in September from Donald J. Trump. He's saying, your automobile insurance is up 73%. Vote for Trump. I'll cut that number in half. Property taxes too, please, says Keith Wasserman. Now, here's the thing. The property taxes pay for the firefighters and for the emergency services. And they want to cut them. That's what Donald Trump says. And this resident was saying, please do, because the property taxes are too high. Someone responded saying this. This is from, I believe, the Kamala HQ person saying, will the lifeboats be seated according to class? Because this person has money to pay for private firefighters, but doesn't want to pay, is asking Donald Trump to lower his property taxes, which pays for emergency services like fire prevention and the fire department. And then Andrew Egger over at the Bulwark tweeted this, saying, also, FFS, how internet poisoned do you have to be to see posts from a guy whose house is burning down and be like, aha, time to do my little dunks? I see the point, which is what I said. Do we have to make everything political? It is an important lesson, I will say, for that homeowner who is complaining about house insurance or homeowner's insurance, which it is, or property taxes, which is extremely high. It is even tough to get homeowners insurance in Los Angeles or in California and in many areas in this country because the insurance companies just don't want to pay. The premiums are so high or they just don't do it. Now, that's a real discussion. We've been talking about Luigi Mangione and the health insurance and insurance companies. Do you know what it costs to get homeowners insurance in Los Angeles if you can get it? It's exorbitant and outrageous. And many people can't even get it there because the insurance companies won't cover it because they believe there's no money in it. There's no profit. That it is a losing situation, a losing battle. They believe it is a losing situation and a losing battle. As we watch these live pictures that are coming in from Los Angeles right now, these are people's homes that are on fire right now. What do you think about this? Do you think this is being politicized too much? What do you think? How do you guys feel about that? Someone on TikTok, Susan, says it's survival of the richest. It's true. It is survival of the richest many times. I don't know if you guys remember the fires that were in Santa Barbara and Montecito, and there were people were having private firefighting companies, private security, people coming in privately, the wealthy people to protect their homes. Not everybody can do that. East Coast Transplant says politics have no place in disasters. M. Moy says, of course it's being politicized. Way too political, says Makia. Now, Demetrius Sifa says, I remember. You remember that, right, Demetrius, when those fires happened in Montecito and Santa Barbara? We are all one disaster away from poverty, says Tammy Lewis. James Brem says, can't all the Lemonheads start a fundraiser to set an example? Not everyone affected is rich. If you guys want to do that, I'm down. James, you want to help set it up? Let's do it. And thank you for your support. Can we do something good out of this? We'd have to figure out where to send the money, where to donate this money. But I would love it if James is a great idea. I would love it if the Lemonheads got together to do it. Is there any way that some cruise ships can come through to pick up people at a dock nearby? No, I'm sure, but that's kind of hard to do, to gather those kinds of resources to be able to do something like that. That's a little bit tough to do, but look, it's a good idea. Half of my check goes to insurance in Texas. That's true. Insurance all over the country. We need to talk about insurance, whether it's health insurance, property insurance, car insurance. It's outrageous. We had wind damage where I live in New York because the winds, if anybody's in Long Island, New York, you know what I'm talking about. The winds have been so strong that I had wind damage to my roof. And I was talking to the insurance person. I said, hey, are my premiums going to go up? He goes, I don't know. You have to talk to your agent. But it depends on how much your deductible is and how much you have to pay out. And I don't think your premiums should be going up, especially if you have homeowners insurance or any kind of insurance and you don't use it that often. Donate to the fire department, says Tam Jules. Yes. Kat says, let's go. If you guys want to help do something, a GoFundMe or some sort of fund, yes, I would love to do that. But people should not be concerned about their premiums going up for legitimate issues. Homeowners insurance in California goes up every year. My homeowner, says Maureen Marfell. And Maureen is in the Bay Area, so she knows. Awful, awful, awful. This morning I had a completely different show planned for you. We're going to talk about the Joe Biden interview that happened. Susan Page of USA Today interviewed Joe Biden. Joe Biden saying, I believe that I could have won. All of the things. But I don't even know if I want to cover that right now. But let's show that. I want to show that part of it, just so we get how important are politics on a day like this. Let's show what Joe Biden from Susan Page at USA Today had to say. There's a full screen of it.
Oh, give me 1 second, Don.
No problem. Joe Biden is saying that he thought that he would have won. He also talked in this interview. It's a wide-ranging interview. He also talked about pardoning his son, the rationale for pardoning his son. If you look at it here, these are some of the quotes. Do you believe you could have won in November? Biden, yeah, it is presumptuous to say that, but I think yes, based on the polling. Do you think you would have had the vigor to serve another 4 years in office? I don't know. That's why I thought when I first announced, talking to Barack about it, I said I thought I was the person. I had no intention of running after Beau died. For real, not a joke. And then when Trump was running again for re-election, I really thought I had the best chance of beating him. But I also wasn't looking to be president when I was 85 years old, 86 years old. And so I did talk about passing the baton. but I don't know. Who the hell knows? So far, so good, but who knows what I'm going to be when I'm 86 years old. Now, Sarah Habib says, I think he would have won. Also, there was also someone in the chat who said, give me a break. Give me a break. A freaking break, Joe, says Curry favor. Now, the polling, if you trust the polling, if you believe in the polling, does not exactly say what Joe Biden is saying here, that he would have won. But there are many folks who believe that he should not have gotten out. Initially, I didn't think that. I knew that they were trying to push him out, but I don't know if he would have won. That's an honest answer. He's mentioned that before, says Maria Maniscalco. Are you related to the comedian, by the way, Maria? So I don't know, but I did not think that he should get out initially. And then, after the debate, I was like, ugh, I don't know if he could go on. He's typically not been a good debater. But anyway, we don't have to rehash all of that. I don't think he could have won. Maria says she's not. She's not. Thank you, Marie. But that is what Joe Biden is saying. He's saying, I think that I could have won. I think that I could have won. One more thing that I want to get to. There is some breaking news that is happening that we have coming in as we'll get back to these fires. So if you're out there near the fires, let us know. By the way, also make sure you hit the thumbs up. Make sure you support us. Make sure you support independent media. We appreciate your support. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe to the channel. Remember that you can become a subscriber. It's free. You can also become a member. And if you're a member, you get priority and you get special things, and we'll tell you about that later. But there is some breaking news that we want to discuss here, and it involves your friends over at the Fox News channel and your friends. Hang on 1 second. 1 second before. This is before. I'll get back to that. I just want to make sure that I'm getting everything before I get to the breaking news. We were talking about the water real quick. Let's get back to the fire, and then I'll get to the breaking news. People have been concerned about water. Remember, I said there's not enough water. Nothing, water everywhere. Tough to get to. That old cliche, but not enough to go around. This is Rick Caruso saying it's like a third world country. Zero water coming out of the fire hydrants. Mayor Bass is in Ghana. That's from In Wokeness. Watch this.
My heart goes out, obviously, to the people with their homes, and I'm watching the small businesses around us go up in flames. This is people's livelihoods, so it's devastating. But what is most concerning to me is our first responders and our firefighters who are trying to battle this. There's no water in the Palisades. There's no water coming out of the fire hydrants. This is an absolute mismanagement by the city. It's not the firefighters' fault, but it's by the city. And I'm going to be very honest. We've got a mayor that's out of the country, and we've got a city that's burning, and there's no resources to put out fires. So if you look at your pictures, you don't see the firefighters there because there's nothing they can do. And it looks like we're in a third world country here. Mm-hmm. And we've got a lot of tough questions that we need to ask the mayor and the city council and our representatives and the county representatives. Why didn't you work to mitigate this? What was your brush mitigation program? I heard you earlier talking about it's been dry because there hasn't been rain. That's not the biggest problem here. The brush up in these hills that are controlled by the city and the county, I would bet you that if they haven't been handled, mitigated, pruned, removed for probably 30 or 40 years. This was a disaster waiting to happen. And what's predictable is preventable. And who's paying the price are all of these people in their homes and their businesses tonight. Now, we'll rebuild, but the majority of this community is going to have a tough time rebuilding their lives.
Okay, so here's the thing. Rick Caruso, just so you know, Rick is right about that, about the brush, about the cleaning of the areas, especially these forest areas, these wooded areas. Many of the folks who are in charge of that, it's cheaper for them to, they believe, come gather it up after the fire has burned it away. when it is too late, rather than doing it as a preventative measure. So he's right about that. But remember, Rick Caruso also has an agenda, somewhat. His words are correct there. He ran against Mayor Bass as the mayor of California. He's a billionaire. So, there may be some sour grapes there, but he's right. Now, look, I don't think the mayor knew that this was going to happen. Her being in Ghana is a whole different thing. I'm sure she's on her way back. So that was, I believe, just a bit of a cheap shot. Joe Biden is right now, the president of the United States is in California on other business. And if something happened in Washington, D.C., it would not be his fault. It would just be happened so that they were out of town. California's always has had a water issue. He's a hater, says Sheba Nice. Yeah, it appears to me that there's some truth to what he's saying about fire prevention, but it seems like a low blow. How do you prepare for unexpected winds, says Amanity. I agree with that. And so that's why I believe people should not. He could have said all of that without hating on the mayor. The mayor beat him. The folks in California who remember California's a blue state, and they're saying, by the way, if Trump were president now, he'd probably withhold federal aid because he hates California. Look, I would hope that he wouldn't do that. But again, as I said, there's always a political angle to this stuff. And that's the angle. He's also criticized California for the wildfires and the brush, and he wants to rake the forest and all of that. Do you remember when he got all the flack for that? Because he doesn't understand, quite honestly, wildfires, the situation in California, even beyond. He doesn't understand beyond what people tell him, which many times is not accurate. And he just goes off on things. Okay, so let's get back to the breaking news that I want to get to. Okay, here's a breaking news, and it is politics. And everyone is talking about who's fake news and the liberal media and blah, 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 blah. Let's put this up, okay? Because this is the breaking news. A mole within Fox, sent the Trump camp all questions that he would be getting at a Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum town hall in January of 2024. Let's see what the MAGA folks have to say about this. Okay, MAGA? Fake news. You guys give answers. He knows what the liberal media is going to say. Allowing him to workshop his answers ahead of time, including his "I'm not going to have time for retribution" line. And I believe this reporting is, I think it's according to Politico. Is that correct? Andy and Peter, let me know. I believe this is according to a Politico report. Again, it is up on your screen. Look at it. It's according to, the photograph is from CNN, Peter. Perhaps the reporting is from, but I believe the photograph in the picture is from CNN. The reporter is a Politico reporter. I just want to double check just to make sure that I get the reporting correct, because we like to be accurate on this program. So, again, that is the breaking news. Now, how do you feel about that? Folks who are MAGA folks who are in the chat. How do you feel about that? A mole within Fox, the reporting is CNN. A mole within Fox sent the Trump camp all questions that he would be getting at a Bret Baier and Martha MacCallum town hall. How do you feel about that? Do you think that somehow affected their election? Do you feel that somehow affected the election? There's also from The Independent, which we love here on this program because they are independent. As it goes, The Trump campaign was handed questions in advance of a Fox News town hall in Iowa in January of last year. That's according to a new book. It's according to a new book, and it's Politico's. Peter, I don't believe that it's CNN's reporting. It's according to a new book. They may have reported it, but it's not their reporting. Politico's Alex Eisenstadt writes in Revenge, the inside story of Trump's return to power, that many of the president-elect's advisors did not want him to show up at the event moderated by Bret Baier and Martha McCallum. Maybe you're correct, Peter. Stand by. They were still peeved at Fox, whose coverage they continued to find antagonistic and did not want the former president to do the primetime event. According to excerpts that were shared. Okay, they shared the excerpts. But this is the Politico Alex Eisenstadt's book. But Trump had a good relationship with Bret Baier. They were golf buddies. And they wanted to do a sit-down, Eisenstadt added. Both Baier and McCallum were known to press the former president harder than other Fox hosts. Trump aides told the former president that they would push him to distance himself from political violence and ask him about any political plans for retribution. The former president wasn't taking prep for the telecast seriously. He'd basically be winging it, but was then allegedly given a huge helping hand. How do you feel about that, MAGA folks? Your guy who is supposed to be the smartest and sharper than Joe Biden needed a helping hand from his favorite folks, a favorable platform. Nobody gave Kamala Harris any questions for her town halls or debates. No one gave her any questions. She didn't have time to workshop her answers. But Donald Trump did. From the same folks who had to pay out millions upon millions of dollars because of a Dominion voter story that perpetrated a fraud on the American people. Linda Ferker says it doesn't surprise her. Does it surprise you? What do you guys think about that? And I want to hear from the MAGA trolls that are in the chat. How do you feel about that? Are you okay with your dear leader? The leader of the MAGA cult being given answers? Are you okay with that? About 30 minutes before the town hall was due to start, a senior aide started getting text messages from a person on the inside at Fox. Holy shit, the team thought, Eisenstadt writes. There were images of all the questions Trump would be asked and planned follow-ups down to the exact wording. Down to the exact wording. Jackpot. This was like a student getting a peek at the test before the exam started. Again, if you're just joining us, the breaking news. Fox News, according to this reporting, Alan Eisenstadt of Politico, a book, also being shared by CNN, that Donald Trump got the answers before a Fox News town hall, a mole within Fox. The reporting said, this is the reporter and the writer from Politico in a book. A mole within Fox sent the Trump camp all questions that he would be getting at a Bret Baier and Martha McCallum town hall in January 2024, allowing him to workshop his answers ahead of time, including his "I'm not going to have time for retribution" line. Anyone? Is it okay? Is this okay with you that someone was given the answers to the test before? That the people who decry and whine about DEI and people having an advantage, minority people usually, black people, and sometimes women, but mostly black people, they get upset because they think that they have a leg up because they are somehow, because of diversity, equity, and inclusion, or because of affirmative action. But it's okay for your guy who has every single privilege in the world, wealth, Ivy League schools, legacy admissions into universities, all of those things. It's okay. Let's see what the folks who were so ticked off about the university presidents, let's see what they say about this. Let's see if they're okay with this. Are you okay with this diversity, equity, and inclusion play? This unfair, according to you, this unfair treatment? Salma Beno says, no, that's cheating. Yeah, this is cheating. It's not, it's diversity, equity, inclusion for their terms, right? They believe that this is how it works, that people are cheating for doing this. Jane R says, no, it's not okay. But will the media be outraged? The media may be outraged, but will folks be outraged? Amber Devon or Amber Devon, that's cheating, which Trump has done his entire life. Pathetic. He has done his entire life. Cheating people out of things. Reportedly, allegedly. Because, you know, he is very litigious. Fox News has planned to ask Trump if he would divest from his businesses if he won, and whether the party was taking a risk nominating him given his indictments. He had time to workshop that. Okay, let's see, how do we answer that? Let's feed him some answers. They're going to ask you this, sir. Do you remember the outrage years ago? Because someone during a CNN, I think it was a town hall or something, debate, gave someone the subjects, not the exact questions, but the subjects that they would be covering, and people got pissed off. Which is really not that unordinary. If someone calls and says, Don, what are you going to be asking? Whatever. I can't give you the exact questions, but I'll tell you, we're going to talk about the economy. We're going to talk about insurance. You know, you got the wildfires going on in California, so we'll discuss that. We're going to discuss no politics at the Grammys. I'm just coming up with things. We're going to talk about, democracy. We'll talk about the indictments and, because that's obviously in the news and we have to discuss that. So those are the subjects that we're going to discuss. Fair enough that we can tell you that. It's obvious. That's what's in the zeitgeist. That's the news. That's news of the day that's happening right now. But we cannot give you questions. Okay? Thank you very much. That's it. That's perfectly allowable. But folks were all upset about that. But he's given the exact question down to the wording. They would also ask if he would disavow political violence and if his administration would be focused on retribution. Trump was pissed, according to Eisenstadt. The former president thought the questions were like attacks designed to put him on the defensive. The Trump team began working on possible answers. Attacks? Anytime Donald Trump is treated fairly, anytime he is treated like any other citizen of the United States would be treated, any other interview subject, if he doesn't like the answer and if it's not favorable to him, the same thing with the MAGA folks, then they see it as an attack. Thank you, Simi. Because of your generosity, Simi, 10 people have the opportunity to become members of the Lemon Nation, to become Lemonheads. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So enjoy it and congratulations. Anytime MAGA folks see that their dear leader or anyone is treated like any other normal citizen, they lose their minds. They lose their minds.
Fire Department, in addition to CAL FIRE.
We'll get to that. I want to
Those
finish this
5,000
before we get to
acres
that.
that have
Let's
burned.
wait. Let's wait till we get to that. Okay. So I want to know from you guys. Do you think it is fair? Do you think it is fair for Donald Trump to get answers, for the MAGA folks to make excuses? That he's able to work on answers that will affect an election. Is this election interference? Should Fox News pay the consequences? Should Donald Trump and his team pay the consequences for not alerting people? Eisenstadt told CNN that the reporting was based on multiple people with direct knowledge of what took place. Meanwhile, a Fox spokesperson told the network that while we do not have any evidence of this occurring, and Alex Eisenstadt has conveniently refused to release the images for fact checking, we take these matters very seriously and plan to investigate should there prove to be a breach within the network. Spokesman also said that it would be inaccurate to call Bear and Trump golf buddies, as they have only played together a small number of times during the last decade they played together. Stephen Chung, the incoming White House communications director, told the network that President Trump was the most accessible and transparent candidate in American history, and it is a big reason why he won in historic fashion. Also, some other juicy things in here. He considered choosing Maria Bartiromo as his head of communications. Wow. Woohoo! To be running his running mate, not his head of communications, his running mate before he was talked out of the idea. So what do you think? Is this unfair treatment? Is this diversity, equity, and inclusion? Is it cheating? Should they pay the consequences? Is it election interference? Is it hypocrisy? Let me know. I want you guys to know in the comments. Now let's get back to our fire story. They're holding a press conference now, and we want to get an update on it. This is I believe, the Los Angeles County Fire Department, but his officials. Andy, here we go. Roll it. Let's see what they have to say.
And requested 50 engine strike teams. 50 engine strike teams is composed of 250 fire engines and over 1,000 personnel. We have also requested resources from out of state, as well as Northern California. Thank you to the first responders from Nevada, Oregon, and Washington State that are already on the road coming to LA County to assist. Lastly, the National Weather Service has predicted a continued red flag weather event with strong winds and low humidities, placing all residents of Los Angeles County in danger. To all of our viewers, please prioritize your safety as well as the well-being of those around you as we come together to continue to get through this widespread disaster. Los Angeles County firefighters will remain on the front line until we reach full containment, and we ask that you keep all of Los Angeles County in your thoughts and prayers. I would now like to invite up Los Angeles City Fire Chief Kristen Crowley to give her briefing. Thank you.
Okay, so here we go. That's they're giving a briefing in Los Angeles, so we'll give you the details on that. All right, but so we can take that down, Andy. Thank you very much. So that is what's happening with the fire, and we know that these fires are still raging out of control. They are not in control. One question that Tracy we had on earlier, the Los Angeles resident said, "Why aren't we getting help, resources from other places?" They have to request that. You just can't roll into a jurisdiction and help out. They have to request it, and they have to accept it, so that they can incorporate you into their plan to make sure that it is all coordinated. Okay? So that's the breaking news happening when it comes to the fire, right? And the breaking news that is happening as it relates to, according to the reports, Donald Trump and Fox News cheating to help get him elected to United States, to the presidency, because they believe, right, in my opinion, that perhaps he's not savvy enough or smart enough or with it enough to answer these questions. You know, the man who's always calling people dumb and stupid and low IQ. And low IQ, that somehow they believe that he needed help in this situation to be able to answer simple questions that any candidate, any presidential candidate should be able to answer. So perhaps his mental acuity or his IQ is not up to par. Someone said on TikTok, Cynthia W. 2025. Sue Fox again. I don't know. What would they sue for? Could you sue? Any attorneys in the chat? Could you sue for this? Could you sue for this? I have some really interest. I find this really, really interesting. I don't know if you're going to find it really, really interesting, but I certainly find it extremely interesting. And that is, do you guys remember the whole Access Hollywood situation? Do you guys remember that? And the whole Billy Bush of it all? Now, I'm just going to tell you. This is, subject change here, but also political. Do you guys remember the whole Billy Bush of it all, the whole grab him by the pussy, all of that? Do you guys remember that? Now, I believe that Billy Bush got screwed. I believe that Billy Bush should not have been fired. I'm not sure what any person would do in that situation. You may disagree. But if I have an interview subject that is spouting off something, most of the time, you just let them dig their own grave. You just let them hang themselves. You said it, I didn't. Just keep your mouth shut. You don't have to defend the person that they are talking about. You can try and say, look, that person's not here to defend themselves. I don't believe it was that kind of situation. And I believe that NBC News should have protected their anchor and said, this isn't Billy Bush's fault. Billy Bush was there to interview him. Billy Bush was put in an uncomfortable situation. And many times when people are in uncomfortable situations, you don't know how they're going to react. And I would have just, if I had been there, I'd be like, okay, what am I supposed to say? Billy Bush is being interviewed by Tucker Carlson talking about the infamous Access Hollywood tape. I want to know what you think. Andy, roll it from the beginning. Make sure it starts from the very beginning.
Lauer came to me after I got off the air
Rewind
at the Today
it,
Show.
please, because we missed a key word. Here we go.
Matt Lauer came to me after I got off the air at the Today Show on a Tuesday morning, and he said, hey, what are you going to do about the tape? I said, what? What do you mean, Matt? And he said, the tape, the bus tape, you and Trump and the whole thing. I said, what are you talking about? It was shot in 2005.
Okay, pause it.
It was the end of...
He's saying this is when it happened back in 2016 when the tape came out. He said Matt Lauer, who was at the Today Show with him, said, what are you going to do about the bus tape? And he goes, what bus tape? And that starts to remind him that he did this whole thing with Access Hollywood, where Access Hollywood went on the road. He said, God, that was 2005. What? 2005? This is 2016, like 2005. Wait a minute. What tape? Oh, the bus thing. Okay. What did he say then? I can't even remember what he said then. I'm not making an excuse for Billy Bush. I'm just saying you interview a lot of folks. And do you remember every intimate detail of a conversation? So this is, look, I just say I have some empathy for Billy Bush here. I do have to say now, do I agree with all of his actions? I don't know. I'd have to be there on that bus. But as I listen to this tape, sometimes when you react nervously to people, you're just like, it doesn't mean that you believe in it. But especially if you are, and I've said this before, I said it when I was on CNN, especially if you are there and you're representing a company and this company wants that interview, you don't want to screw it up. Beth Collier says Matt Lauer ended up having his own problems. Yes, that's true, Beth, but that's separate and apart. That's a whole nother show. It has nothing to do with Billy Bush or this. It's a whole different thing. Now, since you mentioned it, think about it. In this environment now, considering who Donald Trump has nominated to be in his cabinet, and considering what Donald Trump has been found liable of in a court of law, of SA, of abuse, would Matt Lauer even be gone today? If you're judging him by today's standards and what's happening now with the MAGA right, Matt Lauer might still have a job. Ms. Yickaby, whatever, says, no empathy for Billy Bush. He should have corrected the clown immediately. Poor journalism. No. This was not a journalistic interview. This was an entertainment interview. And I understand what you're saying. I don't think if he should have corrected him. I just keep your mouth shut. Now, perhaps should he have gone to his bosses and said, okay, look, there's something happened. I just want you to know about this tape. He said something I don't agree with. I just kept my mouth shut. I didn't think it was my place to intervene because this is your guy. You want me to interview him. So perhaps you should talk to him. Perhaps he should have done that. But I mean, hindsight is 20/20. I don't know what I would have done in that situation. I may have been so uncomfortable that I'm just like, I don't know. But just remember, we are judging this through a 2025 Ms. Yakimo 08. No disrespect. But you're judging this. You're looking at this through the lens of a 2025. This happened in 2005. It was different then. Because I'm not saying it was right, but it was a different time then. And even now, people don't speak up. People don't speak up now because they're afraid of retribution from the administration, from their bosses, about the administration. So think about even then, people were he may have been afraid to speak up. I don't know. I can't answer for him. But someone may have been afraid to speak up because they're like, I'm not going to say anything. This guy's in prime time. He's making millions and millions of dollars for this network. There are people who said, I was afraid to speak up, Don, for people at our network when they went through things because I didn't want I didn't want retribution. I have to keep my kids in school. I've got to pay my mortgage. Now, is that right? I don't know, but you have to understand that people are in circumstances many times where they are afraid of their own job, so they don't say anything. So 2005, 2025, a whole different thing. Think about the way it was for women then. And the reason that they opened up these things to allow people in certain jurisdictions to bring charges against people where they suspended the statute of limitations because it was a whole different mindset, a whole different way of thinking back then. The world was a different place. Just think about the whole civil rights movement. The world was a different place back then. You couldn't say those things that you say about people of color, although we might be going back to those days, I'm just saying. But it's a whole different time. You couldn't go to the city. Look, you couldn't sit in a lunch counter. You couldn't do all these things. The world changes. So I'm just saying, don't judge this from a 2025 or even a 2016. I should say a post-Weinstein era, because it was all different back then. I was speaking to a colleague last night who's been around forever in the news business. And she goes, when someone said that happened, she goes, of course it did. That's what happened in those days. This is a woman. She said, I'm not making excuses for it, but that's what happened in those days. When people are all shocked, especially young people are like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened. It's like, yeah, you didn't live through that. They have no sense of history and how the way that things used to be. The way things used to be for women and for people of color. Obviously, I'm not condoning racism or bigotry or Jim Crow, whatever, but I know that's how things were back then. I remember, you guys don't even remember busing, a lot of you. I was just talking to a friend about busing, people being bussed around to different schools because of school integration. Schools were separate but equal, until integration, and people had to be bussed for hours sometimes. People need to have a sense of history. So 2005 was a different time than now, okay? So Billy Bush is on the bus with Donald Trump, and then all of a sudden this tape starts to come to light back in 2016 when Donald Trump is running. Folks at NBC are finding out about it. Matt Lauer, who's on the Today Show with Billy Bush, is asking him, hey, what are you going to do about this tape? Billy Bush is saying, I had to recall, it was years ago. We'll pick it up from there. Here it is.
It was the end of Access Hollywood was rebuilding a studio, so we had to find a reason to get out of the studio. So we did Access Across America. It started in Miami, and it goes to whatever to Atlanta, and then it works its way back to Los Angeles, giving the studio people the workers enough time to finish a new studio. So it's just it was sponsored and the whole thing. But the last stop was pick up Donald Trump at the Beverly Hills Hotel in Los Angeles and drive him 20 minutes to the studio, deliver him because he's going to make an appearance on Days of Our Lives. And he's going to be playing a big, gaudy billionaire who gets hit on by, a young starlet. So
okay,
the bus is pulling in.
So here it is. Now remember, there are a lot of people who are at fault here because the media propped Donald Trump up as this great businessman because of what? A TV show or ratings. This Celebrity Apprentice made him into a good businessman, which according to all records and indications and the facts, he is not. They created the whole boardroom and this whole situation where they made Donald Trump into this character. It was a caricature of a successful billionaire businessman. And he was the perfect person to play into that role because he was acting in real life. And then he was like, I can just act in real life. I mean, on this TV show, the way I act in real life. Remember, he used to call reportedly the PR people. He had his own thing, Baron somebody. He came up with a name. I forget what it was, but he would create his own PR. So this was a perfect role for Donald Trump. The media took advantage of it. And he made millions for the network. So the media propped him up. And so think about all of that. Like, there's context to everything. Think about it. Erica Sims says, thank you, by the way, for your generous support of independent media. It's really quite interesting how one man, Trump, has broken so many norms, political and social, and has gotten a pass. I wonder if they're broken forever or will reapply once he's gone. No. He gets away with it. A lot of folks do not get a chance to get away with it. And I believe very few people will. Okay? So remember, the media propped him up. Billy Bush is out there doing his job or whatever, trying to. People said Billy Bush laughed through the whole thing. Look, I wasn't there, but sometimes when you're in uncomfortable situations, people, they laugh. You don't know how they're going to react. They just do weird things. Remember, if you're cutting, I don't know if you're cutting people slack. If you think about it, when people are accused of abuse in many ways, they'll go, I didn't know what to do in that situation. I didn't know how to react. Well, you said you liked it at the time. Well, I didn't. I had to say that because I wanted to get out of the situation or I didn't know what to say. Just remember that as we're judging people here. And remember, Billy Bush I have no allegiance to Billy Bush. I've heard that Billy Bush probably didn't say such great things about me. I'm not saying that, but I can be objective about certain situations. Was it right? No. Do you sort of understand the circumstances? Yes, I do. By the way, I'll just say, I don't think Billy Bush should have been fired. I don't think he should have been fired. I think Donald Trump should have been fired. Donald Trump, you're fired. That's who should have been fired. But I think, look, Billy Bush got the raw end of the deal. I really do believe that. These were Donald Trump's actions. Donald Trump went on to become president of the United States. Billy Bush lost his job. What's the fairness in that? What's the fairness in that? Let's go.
The cameramen get off and they run 300 yards ahead while the bus is stopped, waiting to, to film its approach. Because the woman who he's going to be acting with is waiting, and there's a welcoming crew from Days of Our Lives. They're all waiting, and this is the arrival shot.
So pause. What he's saying is, they're on the bus and they're shooting a sequence, what they call a sequence. So Billy Bush and Donald Trump are on the bus, and they're shooting their part of it. So the next part of it is you get the bus rolling up, and then you go to the next section. I think it was Nancy O'Dell, who was his co-host, was going to be at the next section, and then she was going to take it away and then do her part. So they're shooting at what's called a sequence. Oh, Donald Trump's talking blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, oh, and then he caught up with my colleague, Nancy O'Dell, as we arrived at the such and such and such and such. That's right, Billy. When Donald Trump arrived here. And so they're doing a sequence. And so in order to set up the next shot and to get the sequence of Billy Bush getting off the bus and talking to Donald Trump and the arrival shot, and then get the handoff to the next person, the camera people get off the bus to get that shot, and they leave the camera or the audio. They have the microphones on, but they are still rolling because they got to get the shot of them coming off the bus. So the microphones are still on and they're still rolling on the audio part of it and as they're setting up. And that's why you're seeing it. So Billy is explaining, the camera people get off the bus, Donald Trump, they're not thinking about the microphone or whatever, the camera people are still rolling, and then Donald Trump is saying what he really thinks, what's on his mind, and then you get the grab him by the pee. Okay, here he's explaining. Here we go.
And there's a welcoming crew from Days of Our Lives. They're all waiting, and this is the arrival shot. So the cameraman gets off. He never stops recording. So we're still sitting on the bus with the microphones, and he gets off. Stop recording. But it's the red light is still on. So the audio is still recording as the cameraman, runs away. Can't imagine worse luck, right? Well, the Donald at that point, while we're waiting, he gets into what he likes to talk about. And
women.
You don't choose the agenda with Donald Trump. He talks at you, and he started by talking about my co-host Nancy O'Dell, and he, she's so hot. What happened at that? I handle that beautifully. And he keeps going. I'm sorry. I'm just too amused. He just starts talking and talking and talking. And everybody knows what he talked about. And then when we arrive to the shot, except for the end part, the most amazing thing about the whole famous line that starts with grab. I got off the bus. And, so the cameras are there. We return to filming. And I'm like, hey, Donald, meet the person you're acting with. And the whole thing lines up and looks like I'm feeding a wolf to this, feeding this lovely damsel to this wolf after what has just been said. But no one knows what's just been said. And I don't even recall hearing the thing. Of course. I didn't hear that till 11 years later. So it's just a giant shit show.
Well, but also you work in L.A. in the middle of Hollywood. Like, you hear a lot of stuff every day. I mean,
okay. Well, listen,
Julia Roberts has said worse to me. I mean,
all right, stop. Okay. You work in Los Angeles and hear this stuff. Yeah. But it's not always on tape. And you hear people say certain things. I don't know about that part, Tucker, but if people say things in interviews all the time or off camera or whatever, or usually people honestly, why is Tucker laughing, Amanda Bell? I don't know why he's laughing about that. Again, people react. Tucker laughs a lot, but I don't know why he's laughing. And I said people have weird reactions all the time, but during this interview, considering the serious nature and it's now behind him and we know what's happening, perhaps he should not have been laughing about it because it wasn't funny, especially for Billy. It was not funny for Billy Bush. I'll say that. But I've heard worse. Usually people are like, I will say that when people start talking about things, and if they're not media savvy, they'll start to say certain personal things, and I'll do this. And they'll say, what I'm saying, you're wearing a microphone. Oh, thank you. Microphone. If you've been around, Pamela, Broken Wolf says, these men are disgusting. Yeah. Is that how guys talk, though? I don't know. Here we go.
Right, really, but
no, right. I mean, I know the world, and you
are
at the center of the world.
That's
so,
they'll say, let me just to make sure. They'll say, remember, this is locker room talk. That's just how guys talk. This was beyond that. I've never heard anybody say anything like that, even in a locker room. But they'll just say, that's just how guys talk. And that's what they said. They said it was locker room talk, and then he got away with it. But it's not locker room talk. He's talking about SA. Keep going.
Every day people are saying things they wouldn't want to be on camera.
Right.
Not about
But you also have
assaulting
this.
someone. Not about assaulting someone. When he says Julia Roberts, I've heard worse. He said he's joking. Okay, fine. I don't know why he's bringing Julia Roberts into that. Maybe it's just that's a star that came to mind. I'm sure Julia will not be happy about this when this interview comes to light. But I will say people do say things, but this is SA, and men usually don't talk about that. Locker room talk does not equate 34 counts as John Brady. That is true. And if this, let's just say locker room talk, let's just say give it that. I'm not saying that it is. I don't believe that. 34 counts is much worse than what was said on a tape, and he still was elected. Here we go.
He worked in this incredibly weird world where you have like 10, 15 minutes, in my case, forever, because it was a drive across town, to really talk to someone before you talk to someone.
Yes, of
right?
course.
You and I chit-chatted for 15 minutes before we turned these microphones on. Just like, hey, you doing? What's going on? Like, how was the drive?
Yeah, no, but
but I've known you for a long time. But if you didn't know me, you would have that time
always
to establish a little rapport, and you meet them where they are. The next day, that boss says, "Oh no, I heard the whole thing. What you told me yesterday. The guy was rolling." I said, "He rolled on the tape?" I said, "Well, you better do something with that tape." And the reason I said that was for nothing that I did, nothing that I was ashamed of. I don't care. The reason was in 2005, Donald Trump was the biggest star on NBC on NBC, making $100 million in profit a year for the network. Had that tape leaked out in 2005 when it happened, heads would have rolled, including mine, because you just completely tarnished our major cash cow.
But can I just ask, I mean, I've been around, microphones and cameras my whole life, and my understanding to this day is you don't tape people without their knowledge.
In the state of California, this is what's amazing. So in 11 years later, NBC News themselves leaks that tape to the Washington Post. Of that, there is no doubt. They never launched an internal investigation. You have a proprietary piece of property that could affect a presidential election, and it gets out of your building to someone else.
Pause.
You don't launch an investigation.
Okay, Sarah B. brings a very good point as I'm remembering this. She said, Don Lemon, Billy Bush suggested that actress give Trump a hug after what Trump said. That's true. That's true. That was inappropriate. Is it a fireable offense? I don't know. But anyway, there is context behind it. So again, I still think Billy Bush got a bad deal out of this because this was not Billy Bush's fault. This is not Billy Bush saying that. Did he react poorly in some instances? Yes. He was on his work bus. Duh. Nosy nurse report. Again, should Billy Bush have been fired? I don't think so. Reprimand, an explanation. The whole damn thing was inappropriate. Let's move on. I want to continue to hear this interview because it's curry favor. Look, yes, it was inappropriate. But I want to hear Billy Bush respond to it. Should NBC have launched an investigation? Yes. Why didn't they? How did someone else end up with the tape? Why didn't NBC News report this? They have a big news organization there. Why wasn't it them? Let's go on.
How that got out? Like you've got to find out how that got out. Well, it would have ended in 5 seconds. And it got shoved off to the Washington Post.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is it's unfair to tape people when they don't know they're being taped.
It's also illegal. In the state of California, if both people don't know, it's litigious. That's why they gave it to the Washington Post.
Okay, here's what they're saying.
The biggest story.
It's called consent, right? New York and I believe Georgia, it's like one-party consent. Only one person has to know that you're being recorded in order for it to be legal in a court of law. In California, it's a two-party state, I believe, two-party or more. Both parties have to know that they're being recorded. But I don't know if that applies to this because they know that they're being recorded. I don't think that makes sense because they're wearing a microphone and cameras are there. So that whole thing about this being illegal is, I don't think that applies because they both are there to record an interview. So anyway, so scratch that. Go on.
of the October surprise of all surprises. You've got it in your hands and you leak it to someone else. What? You're a giant news division. This is so many clicks for you. This is so much traffic. Why wouldn't you own that? Well, you can't, because Donald is litigious, first of all. And second of all, there's enough reason to believe there's no camera on the bus that he didn't know he was being.
Let's just back up here, because I know the story, but others don't. So you and Rob Silverstein was your friend too, not just your EP. Oh. Yeah. So
spent the night together sharing a bed during the blackout in New York in like 2012 or whatever it was.
Wow.
Because we had nowhere to. Yeah, sweating next to this guy.
So that's the last you hear of this tape for 11 years until you get off the air, if I'm following this correctly. And Matt Lauer comes up to you, and you're not thinking about the tape. No one ever mentioned the tape again. The tape is just like
the day before that Monday. Rob Silverstein called me in New York, and he just said, hey, NBC's asking him, remember the tape with Trump and the whole thing? They may want to look at they're asking for a transcript. I may send it to him because Trump said some crazy things. You don't worry about you. You don't do anything on it. You don't even say a thing. I say, okay, whatever. It doesn't mean anything. Then the next day, he says, I'll call you if anything happens. Well, I never got a call from him. The next thing I hear about it is it's in Lack's hands. Andy Lack, the chairman of NBC News, has it, and Kim, whatever her name is, the legal counsel, the lawyer, she's on it. And Lauer says, you should probably go see Andy Lack, before this thing, they have it. And I was like, oh my God, okay. So I left the studio, went up to Andy Lack's office, and Noah was there.
Pause, please.
And I said, hey, no.
Now, this is interesting information that I had never heard before. The backstory is really interesting. So he's talking about Andy Lack, who was chairman, and then Noah Oppenheim, who was head of the Today Show at the time. I think then became head of the network. But this is how his bosses reacted, according to Billy Bush. Now, this is something interesting that I had not heard about. Okay, let's listen.
Oh, what's going on? He said, yeah, so we got this tape. I said, listen, I don't know what tape. I know about the tape. But I've never heard it. So he played it for me. And I will never forget sitting in Noah Oppenheim's office, the president, the general manager of the Today Show, as he played the part. And when it got to the grab line, Noah laughed. He was in the room. He laughed. Oh, and I guess I got fired for laughing, but there he is laughing, because when you hear something that absurd, what do?
You laugh.
Mostly laugh. It's like a nervous laugh. I've never heard anyone.
Pause. Do you agree with that? I said the same thing, but do you agree? I'm not in all cases, but he's saying it was a nervous laugh. Do you buy that? Let me know what you think. I'm interested in what you. I find this fascinating. As someone sent this to me, and overnight I was listening to it. I'm like, this is fascinating. Jazz and Laughter says, actually, I get that. Let's Not Panic says, I agree with him. I agree, says Karen White. Yes, says Guinevere. So you guys understand, progressively independent. I agree. It was a nervous laugh, says Linda Furker. So that's what I said. It was a nervous laugh. Sometimes you have a nervous reaction. Peggy McGeary says, no, I don't get it. So some folks may disagree. By the way, Stacey Galore, thank you for your support of independent media. But I say, so people are nervous sometimes, like, or you do something like, maybe you say something. I don't know. Robin Dobbs says, yes, I get it. I never blamed him. Norman Sorward says, I didn't laugh. I almost threw up. These jokes weren't uncommon, says Ijetti. Okay, continue on.
This can't be real, obviously, so I'm going to laugh. But I don't recall it. So it's just the first time I ever heard it was that day. And I went, oh, dear. And then I watched the tape and I saw the arrival and the greeting. And I said, oh, my God, the optics of this are just horrible. I'm the first to admit this looks terrible. And what happened in the ensuing days was, hey, what do you want to do about this, Billy? And I said,
what do you want to do?
I said, what do I? And it's crazy. Yeah. This is from Andy Lack, the chairman of NBC News, who was the only person in the world I'd hit with a tire iron if he was sitting right here.
Yeah.
And Noah, I wouldn't. I've forgiven Noah. Andy, tire iron. Truth. But in the ensuing days, it was all, what do you want to do? We could do something with this. These things, I remember this quote, these things have a way of getting out. That's what Noah said to me. And I'm like, no, they don't. You can't. Listen, what if I become the guy whose preamble before interviews gets used, that whoever that public figure is never going to talk to me. I'm going to be the guy that no one wants to talk to, because don't talk to Billy Bush before the interview. The cameras are rolling because he's probably secretly rolling. It's journalism 101, and no one came to my defense on it, of course, because it was such a hot time. Everybody was just, their heads were in the sand. But that whole week was, what do you want to do? And I said, you can't use this. It's illegal to do that to him, to anyone.
It wasn't illegal. It wasn't illegal. Is that it? Are we done?
Yes.
That's it. Okay. So here's the thing. Look, guys, and you guys may not like my response. I see Billy's point to an extent. I see everybody's point. I understand for women how horrific this is. Look, don't get me wrong. I totally understand that. But no one knows how they're going to react in these situations, especially if you're weighing the biggest star at the network at the time, how much money, what the bosses think, what they want, over someone who's making an offhand comment about a woman that's whatever. If you say, dude, you shouldn't be saying that. Yes, he should have done that, or should have, right? Or at least, as I said, made his bosses aware of it. So anyway, look, I'm not making excuses for anyone, for Billy Bush or whatever. I do understand his side of it to an extent. I do. Now, I will say this, and I stand by it. I think Billy Bush got screwed. Billy Bush didn't say grab anybody by the, you know what? Billy Bush had never had anything where he was, to my knowledge, of being inappropriate or saying anything appropriate about women. He was conducting an interview with someone who says outrageous things and does outrageous things. So I just believe that the wrong person got fired. I think the wrong person got fired. And like, I don't know what should happen with Billy Bush. I think that NBC News, whatever, I think they should talk about it. I think that they should bring it back up and see what happens. I don't know. That's just in my opinion. And that's why people have issues with corporations. And I think Billy Bush was caught in a maelstrom of a whole different things. I think that NBC should have stood behind their talent, and they should have said, look, this is not about Billy Bush. This is about Donald Trump, the man who's running to be the leader of the free world, the president of the United States. Did Billy do everything perfectly under the situation? No. And we're going to talk to him about that. And we're going to make sure that that is corrected. But this was an extraordinary situation. Billy Bush happened to be in the middle of it. It was years ago. We're not making excuses for women. We stand by our stance is that it is inappropriate, obviously, for women to speak about that way with women, and obviously for those actions for women. Seal Bear 23. No, Billy Bush is back at work. He's fine. No sympathy. And that's not true. Billy Bush he's not the same as he was before. So look, and they should have said, next, move on. This is about Donald Trump, not about our employee, which we will take care of. And then you see what happens with the audience if they accept him back at the network or whatever. And then it's like, okay, fine. Billy Bush is whatever. He served out his contract or whatever. They should have stood by him, and they should not have fired him. That's how I feel. That's just me. I said what I said. I said what I said. Okay. So, look, so now you know about everything. I just want to make sure, because we had so much breaking news. We got the breaking news on the fire. The press conference is still going on. They're updating. They're going to be updating all day. And, you heard about what I said, what happened with Fox News, allegedly, the reporting from the book that Donald Trump got the questions and was able to come up with some answers. Thank you, Simi. I appreciate it. Thank you all. Look, I'm always going to tell you the truth, and I'm going to tell you how I feel, whether you agree with me or not, because I'm not here to make everybody feel good and just to give you information that really just reconfirms your own beliefs about things. I'm here to make you think about things. I'm here to make you think about if you had a daughter or a relative or a wife or whatever who was caught in a situation that was beyond their control, and they're like, well, I didn't know if they came home and said, Mom, I really didn't know how to react in that situation. I know Billy Bush is a grown man. I'm just trying to make you understand. Or your wife says, I didn't really know. I thought maybe I reacted wrong. Should I have done something different? Because a lot of times you go over the day at the kitchen table while either your husband's preparing dinner or your wife is preparing dinner or something, and you go over the day and you say, maybe I should have reacted differently in that situation. Do you think tomorrow I should go in and say something, or should I go and you do those things? But imagine any one of you being caught in this kind of situation where it is the person running to be president of the United States, and you're like, what the fuck? What did I do? Shit. I don't remember what I did. Again, wrong. But we're praying for the folks who are in California. We want to know how Fox News addresses this, how the MAGA folks and the trolls and the MAGA brain people are going to make excuses for their dear leader, for basically Fox News saying that their person, their man, their MAGA cult leader did not have enough intelligence and the wherewithal to be able to answer simple, basic questions about world issues. Wow, how insulting from Fox News. Can you imagine? That's what they're basically saying. And that's what they're telling you, MAGA folks. And then you have the Billy Bush of it all. How do you feel about it? I'll give you an update on what's happening with me and my sister a little bit later on. And it'll go to our premium members first, and then I'll let everybody else know. Okay? So everyone be well. Thanks everyone for watching. Your support means the world to us. So make sure you hit the like button and you subscribe to our channel to make sure that you never ever miss a video. We're live every day, 10 a.m. Eastern time. We drop even more content at 2 p.m. Eastern and 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you want more Don Lemon Show content, we'd love for you to become a member of the Lemon community, where you will receive access to special community posts. You'll get exclusive content and members-only live shows. So head over to our channel page or click the join button on this video. Again, thank you for watching. We appreciate your love and your support, and we will see you next time.